Week in review, April 21st, 2025. We'll start with the dart challenge again. There's the dartboard. Wide left, missed again. All right, last week I was in Vegas for a couple days. I went out there to check out a gun range for a potential competition I might be involved with later this year. Good trip. While I was out there, I also visited the Strip CrossFit. It's right next to the Strip, right across the freeway, and pretty cool setup. The owner has a lot going on there. He has his CrossFit gym, which is 3,000 or 4,000 square feet, and then next to it he has another gym that is not CrossFit, but for people looking to get into CrossFit-like training. So he has kind of a watered down version, we'll call it, like a boot camp thing that's in its own facility right next to his CrossFit gym. And then down the street from that, well, not down the street, a couple hundred yards away, he has another facility where he has for drop-ins only, so a separate facility, but not just CrossFit drop-ins. He has bodybuilding equipment in there. He said a lot of influencers and content creators use it. It's really, all of the facilities I'm talking about are really nice, and he's done a really good job of having polished and clean gym spaces. And then in the back of that drop-in one, he also had an area where people can drop in and do CrossFit that's independent of the actual CrossFit gym, which is, again, a couple hundred yards down the road. And he's building it out and adding another section to have a larger section for that drop-in area. So if you're in Vegas and you're looking for a gym, the Strip CrossFit, he's done a really good job with it. Check it out. It's set up. When I used to go to Vegas, I used to go to Max Effort. Max Effort used to, in the very beginning, be near the airport, and then in some sports complex, which I saw that same building that it was in years ago. Then it moved across the freeway to a different location, and then eventually, because of cost of the facility, of the venue they were renting or the facility they used, Zach had to close it down and move. But good trip. Really cool going to that gym, and wish I would have had time to visit more CrossFit gyms, but I wasn't able to. I'm going to jump into comments. At Sabri, one last thing before I jump into comments. We also had Copa Sur this weekend, and so a couple more athletes qualified for the games out of South America. I was looking at some of the stuff going on this weekend on social media. Looked like the event went well. So congrats to the athletes who qualified and to the team who was running it. Good job. It looked like it was in the same venue we've done a multitude of events in over the years, to include regionals. The year we basically had to scramble and throw together workouts with from sourcing equipment from local affiliates, because the road gear that was sent in was caught up in some strike, I think, that the truck drivers were having at the time, and so we couldn't get the gear in. But they made it work that year. I think that was maybe 17 or 18, but a wild year. All right, comments. At Sabri Seymour, Dave, surely HQ will be looking at all the athlete videos from the Masters that had judges issues and not just the ones from Mayhem. It's really not a good look if it's just the Mayhem AFJ people. I don't think you're stating the situation correctly. I think it wasn't just let me rephrase that. It wasn't just the Mayhem AFJ people. It was anyone who had a qual that was expired that we then gave those athletes, or we gave that scenario, we decided to review those videos for that group. And it was more than just the Mayhem AFJ people. There was a handful of others in the same scenario. It was less than 50 total athletes. Then there was another scenario where athletes submitted scores and they just didn't have the right qualifications, or didn't have a level 1 or an advanced judges course or the judges course. In those cases, there was no exception made. So 2 separate cases. That being said, in all cases going forward, we will not do that again. So meaning in this case, where there was and again, it was a handful, it was a tiny percentage of overall athletes who completed in this stage of competition. An overwhelming majority, probably 99%, did it right. And then there was a small group who a judge didn't have a current qual. And in some cases, the qualification was not current by a few weeks. So we gave some grace to that scenario because this was the first time ever doing this requirement, and we won't do that for the individuals or the teams going forward. And I think it was a big success in terms of, again, 99% of the people who did this did have the right quals. So it's really not a good look of just the Mayhem AFJ people. That's not true. It wasn't just the Mayhem AFJ people. That was a large collection of them, but there were others who were in the same situation, and the same standard was applied to them. At Briong.299, if he falsified his videos and lied, I'm sure the military will have something to say about his cadet status. I don't know. Is he a cadet? I thought he was actually, no, I think he's past that now. I think he's out of unit. I don't think he's a cadet anymore. We're looking into it for sure. So we've had some formal inquiry into it, and we're looking into the situation since a week ago, since I gave the week in review last week. At Meander Fit. Oh, and to go back to that, I'm sure the military will have something to say about his cadet status. I mean, the military might have something to say about it in general. I'm not sure. I'm not going to get involved in that end, clearly, but we are looking into it. At Meander Fit. Hi, Dave. I have an 11-year-old son that has expressed some interest in serving in the military. I have no military background. Obviously, he's still at an age where I'm trying to get him a wide variety of exposure, so I'm not talking about pushing this on him, but any advice on how to get him more exposure to see if it grows on him would be much appreciated. Thanks. I think so I didn't have any interest in the military. Well, that's not true. I think growing up, I was interested in the military from just standard boy stuff growing up on a ranch. You know, I was really into G.I. Joe. That was big when I was young, and all the military movies at the time, and just the military scene, as a lot of boys are. And then it wasn't until I graduated high school then I really took seriously this notion of enlisting. As a kid, or even as in elementary school, junior high, or even in high school, I had no interest in joining the military. But it wasn't until right after I graduated. So I would say just let him and this might not be the same advice someone else would give, but I would say let him discover it on his own, and let him ask for or look at what he wants to see in regards to that, and go in his own direction. And you say you're not talking about pushing it on him, so I think that's right in line with what you're asking. So I don't have great advice there, but he's still really young, and a lot can change from the time he's 11 to 17 or 18 and has to enlist. So see where he's at when he's 16 and 17 with all of this. At Ryan Pelican 5222, hypothetically, if you were to own CrossFit, how would you structure the season? What would you do, such as removing things, keeping things, or adding things? Really curious what your perspective is. So I have a ton of perspective on that. It would take way too long to talk about here. Maybe another time I'll dive into that, but not going to right now. At JL Craigle, how is it possible that CrossFit is sending athletes videos accepted to those who have 20, 30, 50, and more videos need review? Having judged since 2013 at the local, online, and in person, I find this atrocious. I reviewed hundreds of videos so far online, and his 9-to-1 ratio of terrible movement, aka no reps, to good video. What is the point? What point is there to say you need to post your video publicly and then do nothing to penalize the athlete or the affiliate owner who allowed this to happen in their gym? Remember back to Ryan Fisher. When are we going to see that for real again? Frankly, it's pointless to require an L1 and taking the advanced judges course since the terrible movement is still being accepted. Remember back to Ryan Fisher. So are you talking about when he threatened to kill his judge? I do remember that. When are you going to... Okay, so to the rest of your statement... I mean, you don't even know what's been changed or not changed at this point. The scoreboard's closing today, so maybe everything you're complaining about was corrected. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe you're also not seeing it from the eyes of everyone else who is reviewing videos and judging for us. You sound very passionate, and I don't know the examples you're talking about, so I can't really speak to it. But I appreciate the enthusiasm and care for the sport. Keep it up. At Tamias Schweg 4846, I'd love to see a higher percentage move on to semifinals or quarters. We had a lot of members bummed that the numbers were so low this year. Thanks for all you do. Yep, we're taking a look at doing that differently going forward. So I think next year the season and everything will look the same, but possibly the percentages for how many people are accepted to advance will change. At Anthony TPA 2259, do you ever watch Sevi reviewing your review? No, I do not. At John Don Joian, as a 55 to 59 Masters athlete who qualified for semis, and as someone who does not consider my strength one of my top capabilities, 180 max snatch, 172 power, I feel like Heavy Isabel was scaled appropriately for our age group. I appreciate the heavier weights and the higher skills we saw there. I also received an email from another age group athlete who did a little more deep dive into it. And I think he said it's actually like 57, 60% of athletes in that division were able to do it. And he said it was no issue. At Tommy Day 24, LOL, yeah, Brooke, send him an email to take the test. So this was someone I offered to take the test last week who was critical of the test. And Brooke Stillman 5436 said, I did. And he said, I actually can't take it. So that's true. And here's what I actually said. I said, actually, because of the testing protocol and accreditation, I misspoke and I can't give you access. So she did email, she did ask, and then I checked with the team if we could give her access. And the team said, again, because of the accreditation specifically, that something like that is not allowed. So I responded and said, actually, because of the testing protocol and accreditation, I misspoke and I can't give you access. So it's a little more than her response. I did, and he said I actually can't take it. There was a reason why I said you can't take it. All right, quick weekend review. Got a lot going on today. Busy week, and then just a lot going on in general. If you haven't purchased your games tickets, go online and grab some. They're still available. If you haven't purchased tickets to any of the upcoming semifinal or qualifying events, check those out too. All right, thanks everyone.